Hello, everyone. It's alarm time. All right. Booga booga. All right, let's check to make sure everything's working. Check, check, check. Hello. 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 Can ya hear me? Can ya see me? Hello. Hello, everyone. I need coffee. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Java, Java, Java. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Wednesday. I'm Casey. Welcome to the show. It's time for some work. We're going to continue working on this Hill Giant from Reaper Bones that I was working on last night. Got some good skin tone shading and highlights with the airbrush. We did some base coats with all the other colors. So now we're going to add a bit of shading on these other areas and work up the highlights and see if we can finish this guy up tonight. Let's see here, where did I put it? There it is. So I'm going to do some shading with good old Citadel shade, Adretzer shade. Running out of that. Where's the dropper bottle? Yeah, I got a dropper bottle here, so. Alright, we'll just use it up from the bottle here. Excuse me. Noony, 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 noony. So, let's go ahead and darken up all the areas that I base coated last night with the shade. Pulling the paint down into the cracks and crevices so it darkens. It'll be darker in those areas. We'll get the tree right in their face. Do some movements here. There we go. Alright. Go down here on this leg. All the hair he's got, we'll darken that up with the wash. Hope everyone's having a good day. It's Wednesday. We're halfway there to the weekend. So when doing a wash, you just want to make sure it doesn't build up and to the cracks and crevices and it's too thick, because then when it dries, it's just obscures detail and everything. It just doesn't look good. So to speed things up, we're just using the same wash on all these areas. We'll add some coloration with some reds and reds and purples on his skin in just a bit. While this is drying. There's a little wolf pelt. Paint that in some grays. So I'm using a pretty big brush. It's a number 3. So it's just got longer bristles and everything. Can hold more of the wash. So I don't have to keep going back to my pot here. So then once this is dry, this will darken up all the areas and get onto the recesses and just instant shading, so it's already darkening up. Let's do his beard here. Go ahead and apply it here inside his mouth just to darken it up a bit. And also his pupils of his eyes, just to give it some shading and stuff like that. Around his nose. You might be tempted to apply a large amount on it at once. Resist that urge, because as you can see here, it pools up, and we just want to make it nice, smooth across the whole area. And don't put your finger on the wet paint. Get his big bushy eyebrows here. I think I did that area. Seeing right here, it's all dripping down, so it's all collecting down at the bottom of his loincloth there. So you just want to make sure it's not doing that, and you just keep spreading it out while it's wet. Be careful as it starts to dry, because you can actually pull up the wash and get those coffee stain rings or bathtub rings type of thing. And this is uneven texture. It just doesn't, we don't need that. Thing right there, it overflowed. Start on the wood here. Big old tree trunk. This has got a lot of texture in it too, so it's perfect for adding washes. That'll go into all the little cracks and crevices, and so much better. Because there's, with the base coat, and now adding the wash, once that's dry, it'll just look awesome. Ends of here, up here. So right here on his hand, it's all pulling down to his hand, so we want to spread that out. Sometimes you might have to soak it up with your brush. All right. And if you want to make it darker or get in, darker in the recesses, just let it fully dry, and then you can go back over with the same color. And just like with regular paint, as you build it up, it makes it darker. All right. Almost used that up. Got a little bit left. All right. So now, while we're waiting for that all to dry, we'll work on his face. So we'll paint in his eyes and start working on his teeth. So we want to paint the sockets like a dark brown. I like to use Mahogany from Pro Acryl by Creature Caster. Put a little bit on here on my palette here. And we'll add a bit of black, the coal black. We'll need some of that. And then for the whites of the eyes, instead of using white, which is very bright, we're going to use an off-white or an ivory. And instead of painting the pupils black, with the white eyes, and make them look like this. So it'll be a little more subtle, more natural looking with a dark brown. So a lot like a black brown tone, and using an off-white for the pupils. Alright. I could use the bigger brush, the number 2, But I'm going to go ahead and use my traditional number 0 here. Got some paint there on the ferrule. This will actually probably be quite easy with the camera because it's a bigger face than doing a smaller one. So if the music gets too loud or anything, let me know. I can adjust it. Alright, so if you can see on the sculpt, there's a pupil sculpted there. So we're just trying to paint over that with our dark brown. So we're painting the socket in this color. It's okay if it's you're over the socket, you went past the socket or anything. On the side of the face, you can still fix it up. So while I'm here, I'll go ahead and we'll paint in some of the dark shadows of his mouth here. There we go. Black tooth grin. Point on our brush, and how you do that is just drag, twist and drag it across your thumb. So we want to paint the white of the eye, but we want to keep the mahogany, a rim of that paint around the eye. And so this side's a little bit difficult to get to because of the arm here. Yep, sure enough, I went too far. So you can see right there, I went outside of the line, which is okay. So just go back with your mahogany once this is dry. Let's do it. And just touch it up. So now for the pupil, I want it a little bit darker, so I'm just adding some black and with mahogany, make a nice black brownish color. Do it the same, twist and drag to get that point, and he's going to be looking forward, so it's a quick and easy, it's just a line right in the center. If we wanted him off to look to the side, you adjust it, but he's just going to look straight on. So we find the center of the eye. And just draw like a little line. And you can find the center with your line and then just add, go around from that center point and just dab around to make it somewhat of a circle. and you want to touch the top of the white and to the bottom. Alright, so we're going to look on him straight on. Right about there. If you want, you can also do, just a straight line down. It's like, let's say here is his pupil. Right there, and you just do a line like that. Straight down, and then you come back with your skin tone to cover that over. Okay, so this one's a little bit too big. It's a little bit bigger than the other one. So what I'm going to do is take some ivory and just come back in there and start applying more ivory towards the center. So start on the end and just start pushing it over to the edge, right into the center. Okay. And if you want to be really fancy, you can do the reflective off the eye, and so that's just a little white dot up into the top corner. I kind of went too far on this one, so I'm going to come back with my mahogany and touch that up. And if he had bigger eyes, I could go in and add a bit of color. So just the opposite from where I did the white pupil, I can add a little bit of color dot like right there on the bottom of it. But I'm good for that. I normally don't go to that stage unless they're bigger models and have really big eyes that you can see. Alright. Do the teeth. We'll add some skin tone on here. So the teeth, we're going to start with I'm sure this hill giant doesn't brush his teeth, so they're all kind of nasty and plaque ridden. So we'll start with a base coat of light umber. Well, I'll first highlight over it. So we already have the mahogany there. Just going to pull the paint down towards the bottom of the tooth, or the teeth I should say, and then on the bottom pull it towards the center. And then we'll add some ivory to that, highlight that up. But first I want to get in there where his tongue add some skin tone to the mahogany, and we'll add a little bit of magenta into it. Don't need a whole lot of this color on the palette here. paint over the tongue back here, leaving that mahogany in the recesses, and also paint that on the gum line. Get a nice pinkish tone. And before I go any further, we're going to switch up and do some added color to his face. So we'll do some red glazing around his eyes, underneath his eyes, around his nose, and his lower lip, and then some on the gums. And then we'll paint in the dark underneath in the deep shadows with the Jushi Violet. These are both Citadel. It's a Citadel glaze, so it's much thinner than the shade. And this just brings some color into it. Difference between a glaze and a wash. A glaze is a little bit is thinner. They're about the same consistency. Glaze is slightly different, slightly thinner. Hello. The glaze will sit right on top of the surface and tint it, like it is doing right here on his nose. A wash will spread out and go into all the cracks and crevices and darken it. So you can make glazes and washes from regular paint by thinning them. You can thin them with water. Otherwise, you can use glaze medium. This is Vallejo, but you can also get artist brands from like Michaels. I got the Liquitex glaze medium, but it left it very shiny. So I just bought the Vallejo, which is more of a matte. And what I mean by matte and gloss, matte, there's no glossy shininess to it, where the gloss is very shiny and glossy and reflective. Gloss is glossy. But there's different additives and stuff, but usually you can just use water. You can also buy pre-made ones, like Citadel makes 4 pre-made glazes: red, blue, green, and yellow. They have, I think, 10 or 12 different shades of all the colors. I like the pre-made ones, certain ones of those. It's just easier. But I can easily make some glazes and washes on my palette, so it's not a big deal. So we're just applying the glaze here in his mouth. Ooh, yay! Thank you, Slow Fuse. Welcome. Thank you for the host. How are you doing tonight? Yeah, no problem, Alien. That's what I'm here for. Painting up the... Thank you, I appreciate it. Painting up a Reaper Hill Giant I was working on last night and doing some more work on it tonight. So with the glazes on the faces, if you add more red around the eyes, you can make them look bloodshot. You know, he's kind of got a growl, he's screaming, so you can add more red into that, some purples, some blues, just to make him look more angry. Thank you. Yeah, all the skin tones I did with the airbrush, I'm very pleased with that. Working on that from last night. Still getting the hang of the airbrush, so I'm feeling more and more confident with it, so it's nice. So we're just adding some color into his cheeks. Because otherwise, not having this red and purple in there, it makes it kind of dull. His face looks a bit dull. So I'll add some into his ears here. So he's just really angry. It just makes him look more angry and ready to eat some villagers. And I forgot to paint that part black for his hair. Oh well. Oh, very cool. Yeah, I guess it's a little easier than doing some creature caster stuff there, huh? I would love to come to Kingdom Con, but I'll definitely be at Adepticon, so I'll be bugging you and harassing you at Adepticon. That's not what the color I wanted. It'll be the first time that I go to that convention, so a friend of mine and I are going, so we're excited. Telling him we gotta go here. So just adding that little bit of red really makes his face pop out more. And we're going to add this purple wash into the deeper recesses, same areas, around the nose, in the mouth, under the eyes. Now he's starting to look pissed off. So I want the most pigment here and on his brow and his nose. So I'm starting up here and pulling down, and when I lift up my brush, that's where the most pigment will be applied. Got kind of a snarl there, almost like a Elvis Presley snarl. That's what it reminds me of. And we'll just add this up underneath in his ears. So it's well worth it to add more have some more work around the face, because that's your focal point. Alright. So we're waiting for that to dry. We'll go ahead and continue working on his teeth and his gums. I'm just adding a little bit more ivory into the light umber. Little dots on the ends of his teeth there. And then we'll just finish it off with straight ivory. My lights, it's gotta be the white balance. Now we'll go back in with some tan flesh to the mahogany, just to add some highlights to his gums here. So just doing little dots on it. Just straight tan flesh. So more towards the center. Right in there. Alright, so now we're going to go back to our mahogany black mitts. And just paint a very thin dark line underneath the gums to separate the gums and the lip. Alright, so now we're going to give him some 5 o'clock shadow on his upper lip and like right here on his side of his face. He's got those Lenny Kravitz or big old bushy, almost like Wolverine type chops, sideburns. So for the 5 o'clock shadow or grizzled stubble, we're going to take our tan flesh that we have here, add a little bit of, very small amount of dark gray blue, make kind of a bluish gray skin tone, and we're going to thin that down to a wash. So Alien, if you're still hanging out, I'll show you how you make a wash. Not a wash, a glaze. So it's roughly about 2 to 1 or 2 to half of 1, because this blue is very heavily pigmented. So I want it just very pale. And then I'm just trying to keep adding water from my wet palette. To pretty much look like a dirty water. So just dragging it across my my thumb here. It's very thin. You can just barely see underneath it. That's perfect. So I want to build up the layers. It's actually quite thin compared to the red glaze I did. Because I want the highlight underneath to shine through. Yeah, it almost looks like he's got like a chin beard, you know, where it's the underneath the sides and down underneath the chin. So we're gonna add a bit of coloration here. And you let that dry, and you can add another layer to build it up, but you know, this is very subtle. And it's very thin, so it dries fast. So we'll just do another layer over it real quick, especially over his lip. Down here on his chin. Yeah, it almost looks like he's got like a neck beard. All right. Okay, let's see here. We're add a little bit more purple in the center of his face here. He'll look really upset. Yelling at the kids to get off his yard. Get off my yard! Add a little bit underneath his lip. And there we go. All right. So now we're going to work on his hair. And that was a mix of dark umber and black. Ooh, I'm running out. Good thing I made placed an order for some more paint. Hopefully I'll get it soon. The holiday on Monday threw him off. I bought the set of 29 when they were released December 10th. And I've been working with them non-stop, and I just placed another order for the most used paints, which were like another 8 paints of the main ones that I use a lot, like mahogany, dark umber, black, silver, gray, things like that. So hopefully they show up tomorrow. Alright, we're going to switch over to our number 2 brush for this part. So this was about a mix of 1-to-1 black to umber. But I'm going to add a little bit more of the umber in there just to lighten it for the first highlight. Not by much. So you can actually see it. The highlights on there. So we'll start with his eyebrows. And then the tuft of hair on the top of his head. And I'm just doing small little lines. Hopefully you can see it here on his beard. When I go to the Nets pure dark umber, you'll see it a little bit better. Now that I got the face where I'm liking it, the rest of the model will all come together. I tend to do the face first, and if I can't get the face to look right, the rest of the model to me just doesn't look good. And I struggle, but once I get the face just right, because that's the focal point, I'll spend more time on the face than the rest of the model in some cases. Especially the eyes. Sometimes I'll take forever on the eyes. So here I'm just doing little slash marks like I did before on the edges to make it look like it's growing. I mean, the hair is coming out of the skin. Leaving that darker paint in the recess right here. It's a subtle color shift, but I'd rather do this slightly different color, the slightly lighter, instead of going straight into a lighter color, because that way it won't look as stark. You won't have that abrupt change. Oh, I must have hit that with the black there. He almost looks like a Neanderthal Cro-Magnon man, or a half ape with all the hair on him too. It's a very cool sculpt. I like it. He's fun to paint up. I gotta go back and do all the nails and all the toenails and the fingernails, which will be the same as his teeth. We'll do that after the hair. So now we got that. We're going to go straight to pure dark umber. So this is that black with dark umber. Excuse me. Here's my pure dark umber, so it's slightly lighter. And then I'll do light umber on the very ends. So just doing the same thing, but just further down on the edge, more towards the tips of the hair. So same type of application, leaving the previous layers in the shadows there. I think the next time I do one of these, I'll give him like bright colored hair. That little nub of hair on top of his head is great. I can just hear him. Those darn pesky kids, they keep coming on my yard. And I'm going to concentrate the lighter colors, the brighter highlights up on this part near the top, so that's where the brightest point is, then down here. Junette's Tea. Did I say that right? Junette's Tea. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. How are you doing today? Or today? Alright, so I'll go back over here on his... So this part of his leg is in shadow, so I'm not going to add highlights in there. But I'm not going to do just a straight line down from the highlights, so I'm going to kind of go back and, kind of zigzag it down. But on the edge here is where the light's going to catch the most hair and bring that out. Same here. I'll add some near the top, but down here I'm not going to bother. Because it's in shadow, so we want that to stay dark. Paint on his hairy toes. Alright, now this arm. So the hair is starting to come along. We're going to add maybe another, at least another highlight, maybe 2. So we'll see how the light number shows on that. Now it looks very close to this, but that I'm going to be painting in gray. So it's a different texture. So we got the light umber right here. And just the same thing. We're just going to go at the very ends. Oh, there's a little top knot here. Type of thing. The ends of his beard. Having a very nice point on your brush and get really nice fine lines. We'll add a little bit of ivory to this on the next one to really make it pop. Actually, no, I won't add ivory. I'll add golden brown. We'll make him kind of a dirty blonde. So it's usually not till the last highlight or two is when it really starts to pop and come together. You don't want to rush the highlighting, just take your time. Right over here on his leg here. So we're bringing the highlight further out to the end. That's where the light's coming down. But we'll catch just a bit of here on the, like right in the center. The reflecting back up on from the ground. like so. So we'll just do a small area near the top of it, just to give it some highlights. I'll flip up and do the last up here. And I'm just, as you can see, I'm just doing these little taps with the paint to show the, excuse me, the hair strands. So I'm adding more texture to it. Alright. So he's looking pretty good. We're going to add one more highlight. We're going to add some golden brown, which is a yellowish brown, into the light umber. It exploded on me. I'm too impatient. I shook it up and then I opened it up and that's alright. So now we have this kind of yellow, a dark yellowish brown tone, blonde, almost dirty blonde. Yeah, that'll help just make it stand out a little bit more. Tempted to paint the loincloth at least in our gray, but you don't really see that because right now he's in all really muted earthy tones, which I guess is fine because he is a hill giant. He's got some color in him, some reds and purples from the face. Well, we'll have some grays here, so that'll throw it on. That will add different variety. You don't want to. You don't. Right now, he's looking all kind of the same tone, so you want to have, you know, in your on your model, you want to have different. You know, you have different textures, but you want to have different colors, different shades of stuff. You don't want to keep it all neutral reds and things like that, or browns. He's got rope here, which will be a brighter, you know, start adding this yellow to it. The tree trunk will be kind of a dead tree where it'll have gray. The fur he has will be white, like a pale white, not white, be gray also. And then we have the silvers. So, looking at him right now, he does kind of look all one color, not much variety, but he will have some variety in the end. So we're concentrating this last highlight near the upper part of the muscles here, of his forearm. It has some like I said, it has some texture of the fur or the hair. I'm just, with these little lines, I'm adding more, make it look like it's got more texture than it actually does. This should do it on the hair texture. I forgot his feet. Keep forgetting the hair on his feet. Alright. Right here. There we go. So I'm going to use the same color to work right here on the rope, but I'm going to highlight it a little bit more from this. This will be the first highlight on the rope here. So it's good to keep some similar shading colors using in different areas, like the black, the brown for all the base coats on everything except for the metal, and then highlighting from that. It'll keep all the shading together. It keeps the model all working in harmony. The best way of saying that. And it also speeds up the painting process. So even if you are working different colors, but you use the same shading or some of the same colors to highlight as your mixer, it ties the model all together. And this will be all gray, so it'll separate the two colors. So we'll have kind of like a warm tone to a cool tone to a warm tone to a cool tone to a warm. Okay, so now I'm gonna go straight to golden brown on that. I think that's the only area I have rope. Yeah. He's got a leather strap here. And then this strap here to hold the shoulder pad. He's got a leather strap here. So this is just on the upper portion of it. Just don't be afraid to experiment. If something's not looking right, you know, you try something, hey, let's try this, and it doesn't turn out, you can always paint over it. Don't feel like you're locked in. Now we're going to add some ivory up into that golden brown. Almost like a pale yellow. And this is going to be near the top of the rope. It almost looks like it's sun bleached. To that. Almost to a pure ivory there. And just little dots. Okay, I might add a wash to that just to darken it up, but I want to do the fur nets to bring some different color in here. So we'll start with the the dark warm gray, and then we'll add highlights with the bright warm gray. Does anyone have any questions on what I'm doing? Or just want to say hi? Hello. I'm Casey. Welcome. Feel free to ask any questions on miniature painting, things like that, in the chat. Or if you just want to say hello, if you're working on a hobby project while you're watching, go ahead and say what you're doing. If you like, you don't have to, but if you like to share, go ahead. Feel free. Just adding some gray here. And just like the hair, we're going to do the same technique on the fur. So I'll say he killed, he's got a nice wolf pelt. So just a lot of little lines. We want to keep that brown, excuse me, in the shading. Make it look dirty. We can add, we're going to add some different black washes over it to make it look matted and dirty. It's still a neutral color, but it's a brighter color in that sense, and so I'll add some variety to the model. So, get the top part here. So just dragging the side of the brush up so the raised areas is catching the paint off the brush. Almost like a dry brush, where you're dragging the brush across and the raised areas is catching the paint. So we're going to move over to this side. Just work our way around the model. Nothing too fancy. Get underneath his, behind his arm here. Just add. Alright, so we have this right here, and there's also a bit of fur right here underneath the shoulder armor. Just like that. That's looking better. I'm digging it. You just take one area and work on it and then go to a different area. Alright. So we'll go ahead and we'll add a little bit of that. I keep forgetting these colors' names. Bright warm gray to the dark warm gray. Make like a mid-tone. So it's not so bright. We'll do the same thing. Closer to the ends and the raised areas. Just want to make sure your tip of your brush has a nice point. Looks kind of too clean at the moment, but we'll dirty it up with some washes when we're done. Kind of dragging it across the texture real quick. Doesn't have to be neat. Like I said, it's just matted and dirty fur. Alright. Clean our brush real quick. Now we'll just do straight bright warm gray. And we'll just do some random areas. When I was painting in here, my brush touched the inside of his arm. I got some paint on it, but it was still wet. I was able to wipe it off with my finger. So, quick erase. But if I didn't catch that and I came back and I saw it, I could easily just paint over it. Okay. I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. I might come back with a brighter color just on some of the raised areas, but I don't want it too bright because, like I said, I want it to make it look like it's matted and dirty and such. Alright. So he's coming along really nice. Only have a few more things to do. So the leather straps, the metal, and then his big old log here. And some other fine detail highlights. We'll do the scars and maybe some highlight more on the skin. But he's coming along really nice, and we have the base to do. So it's 7 o'clock, got about an hour and a half. So like I said, we'll see how far we get tonight. So it looks like we might be able to get them really close to being done. Alright. So for the leather, I want to have it kind of like a reddish brown. So we're going to use mahogany as our first highlight over the light umber. Just add some more on my palette here. And I'll take a very fine brush, my number 0, because I want to do little dashes on the leather for the highlights to make it look like it's texture and it's worn, cracked, weathered. So same type of idea like I did with the hair. I'm just going to do little dash marks like so. And this is a dark color against a dark color, so it'd be kind of hard to see it at the moment. It's mainly I'm changing it to that reddish brown. But when I start to add ivory into it, and doing that same thing, you'll start to see the texture on here. That's So for the most part, I'm just applying this mahogany on here, and then with the highlights, we'll start adding that texture. We got the bit right here. Tree trunk right in the camera. He's like, look at my stick. Isn't it? How you doing tonight, Crimson? How's it going? Hope you're having a good day, good week. This is the hill giant that I've been working on off and on. Very cool. You'll need to add a giant to your next session and have this guy come in. Be all stompy on him. Alright. Now we have his little loincloth here. Same with that White Guardian dragon. You can bring that in. Six frost giants? Oh my gosh. That's crazy. I gotta paint those other ones that you printed, the frost giant and the fire giant. Maybe I'll start painting more of those. Yeah, I think I'll do that next week. We'll do a giant theme. Not or, and. Minotaur and Angel. Yes, you really need to get those to me. I really want to paint those up. Alright, so I'm adding some ivory. Excuse me, into the mahogany. And keeping my brush tip nice and sharp. Wet palette business. Yeah, I know, I went back. See, I go back and forth. I keep you on your toes. See, I was messing with you. At a weekly painting group a couple weeks ago, I was telling Crimson, everyone, I was telling Crimson that I'm not using a wet palette anymore, and it totally freaked him out. Yeah, apple barrel. Yeah, I'm using the apple barrel. He likes to give me guff. I should start painting with apple barrel. And the hobby hangout, someone was asking how to thin those paints for airbrush to do terrain. I know you were doing that, Crimson. Yeah. Recommendation, don't. I think it's just they're too thick. They're not designed to be that thin. Alright, so just doing the little slash marks here around the curve of the belt where it'll be the most worn. So adding the ivory has got a bit of yellow into it, to the white. So it gives it that more natural look. And it's not so oversaturated, it's not so bright if you were to use white. Hey, Justin, were you able to register for Con of the North? I know that you were posting something that you were having issues with that. Ishalawin, thank you for the follow. Welcome. How are you doing tonight? 8 games. Oh my gosh. Is that all part of the D&D, the Dungeons and Dragons Adventures League? So I'm wondering if I'm going to be in the same room with you. Cool. I wonder if John's going to put us in the same room. I'm very excited for that. And John, he's excited for me for that. So okay. I'm hesitant about it, so we'll see how many you need. And what type. I can do like tier 1 where it's base coat with the airbrush and then a wash. So we can do that real quick. Or we can do another painting session like we did last time, where we get together and paint. So just adding some more ivory into it. So now I have a very, very pale light color. And this is just going to go more on the curve where it's more worn and cracked. I like to add these little, the little dash marks to make it texture, and the highlight, that what I call texture highlights. It just makes it look better than just a straight line. It adds more depth and character to the model. There's a stick. Lots of drow. Alright. We'll set a day and time that we can get together, and we'll do that. I'm up to painting a bunch of drow elves. It'll be fun. So we can do what we did last time. Either I go to your place or you come over here. Either or. Mini beholders, yay! Alright. I'm game. It's better if we do it sooner than later. Oh, jeez. That's a lot. That's a lot of resin. Alright, so we got some more variety on him. He's turning out really cool as we get the club right there in the camera. Alright. We're going to start working on his club now. Alright, so the club itself was, I think, base coated with the light umber. So we'll go to that for the first bit of highlighting. So just very thin lines to give it that wood texture. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. You'll have to put him on a base. He doesn't come with a base. I added him to the base because he kept tipping over. Yeah, you can print that. No problem. No problem. Just add it to your queue of other stuff that you need to print. Alright. So his club here, it's got old bark on the top and then some bark has pulled up, so this is the bare wood underneath it. 7 buildings. How many buildings do you need? My goodness. Oh. I don't know, it depends. 7 I think would be far, depending on what type of battlefield you're working on. You're not playing AOS. Or did you start playing war games and not tell me? Yeah, always changing. Seven should be fine, unless you're trying to do a whole town and need about 10. I think a dozen would be more than enough variety. That should be more than enough if you already got 7. Alright, so I'm going to add some ivory into the light umber. And this is just for the bare wood underneath. That's a little bit more brighter. This will be more gray, greenish gray, to make it look like it's dead or dying wood, because it's no longer in the ground. So just very thin lines. Give it that wood texture there. Thank you. How are you doing tonight, Thrawn? That is Thrawn, right? Yeah. How are you doing? I'm almost done with them. Gotta finish up the wood, the tree trunk, and then the metals, and then the basing. I'll give a view of it in just a minute. Oh, I gotta do his nails too, and maybe some highlight, and then some highlights. So he's almost there. We're getting close. We're getting close. Well, Justin, if you like this Hilt Giant so much, you might be able to buy it at Con of the North. That's good. I'll be doing that in about an hour. That's why I cut my stream about an hour short, so I can actually eat dinner at a decent time instead of late at night at 9:30, 10 o'clock. Alright, so we'll just add a little bit more ivory to it. There we go. Yeah, send me pizza. No SWAT teams. No. Don't need that. Don't need that on here. No. Oh, Justin. Zoe, she's got some extra My Little Pony dolls, and she's trying to paint them herself. She wants to paint them up. So I'll have to show you the results of those. She was working on it tonight. I think she had an extra one of like Rainbow Dash. And she wants to make it look like it's an undead zombie pony. So she like cut off the hair, and now she was using nail polish remover to remove some of the paint off of it. Don't eat the paint. I stopped doing that. I was doing that for a while, and I stopped doing that. No, I won't. Because when I was doing that for the 2-brush blending with the P3 paints, I started having issues. No, I didn't do it with the Reaper paints. It's only a matter of time. No, I'm not going to relapse. For some reason, after doing it, it like kicked out my asthma or something, or I started having breathing issues, like not heart pains, but like chest pains, and my asthma acted up. And it was only after I was doing 2-brush blending, and I got some paint in my mouth and digested it. Coincidence? I think not. I think it might be adding to it. So I decided not to do that anymore. That's why I like these Pro Acrylic paints. I can get really nice blends with them without having to dip the brush in my mouth. But I'll sit here and I'll prime with the airbrush with no face mask on. But I have no issues with that. yesterday. I was priming so much in here, and it actually did get a bit too much with the primer. Yes, I need a bots. I need a bots. Alright. I'll leave it the way that is for now. So we'll add some of this light umber into my grays over here. Let's put some dark umber in there too. Kind of get a brown gray tone going. For the wood area. And once again, I'm just doing little dashes to catch that detail. Oh yeah, no doubt about that. I worked in plastic injection molding areas and getting the fumes in from burnt plastic. Ugh, that's terrible. It is not fun. I've only been diagnosed with asthma for the last 5 years? No. Excuse me. About 8 years? And it's not fun not being able to breathe when you have those attacks. So excuse me. Hey Justin, are you going to go down to the source for Paint Club on Sunday? I'm not sure if I want to or not because of the weather. I was down there today playing some Lord of the Rings with a friend of mine. Had a good time. Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Yeah, that's not a problem. I remember you saying that you were going to be out of town for a while. It's going to be really nasty, the weather, so I'm thinking of staying home. I didn't go last week because of the weather too, so today was the nice decent weather. Oh, okay. That'd be nice. Save on money. I already forewarned Jason Craze from Slow Fuse Gaming that I'll be bugging him at Adepticon, so okay. Very cool. We still need to figure out what days we're going. If we're going to go at the first day and obviously stay the whole weekend, or if we'll go later on. So we can chat about that later. So just little dash marks here. Get that texture real quick and easy. It's a little bit tedious, but the final product looks really nice. Yeah, because I have those other two giants that you printed up. The Frost Giant and the Fire Giant, Justin. Need a... I don't know who printed those. I mean, who designed them. Hill Giant. Oh, that Hill Giant. He broke. That one broke. So I'll need a new one of that. I got the orc, but I broke that off. Ah! Dropping my glue here. Yeah, he broke. He took a tumble. He took a tumble off the cliff and broke. Yeah, that's why I can't have nice things. Yeah, because that orc, the orc I was showing last night, and he's like, yeah, we got this, and I kind of touched the top of this spear and just moved it a little bit, and it was enough to snap it. It's quite funny. It's like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. I think it's like midway through the stream that I was showing that off. Yeah. I do want to get some more larger Reaper bones. Ugh, jeez. You might be just running them too much. Some Dagon? A Dagon? Sure, you can donate to the cause. paint those up on the string. A tiny Reaper bones. Yeah, that's it. I was showing you how pliable the plastic was, the Reaper ones, and the bigger ones, they're, you know, really sturdy. Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, I want to paint him. That'll be great. A lot of blues and purples and turquoise. That'll be fun with the airbrush. Yeah, you don't want to paint that. You want me to paint it. I'll paint it for you. Alright, so now I'm just kind of dragging my brush across here. Let's speed this up. Otherwise, I'm going to sit here and take too long and get cross-eyed trying to get all these little highlights here. We're getting there, almost there. Almost done. Metal. Sometimes I have issues with metal, trying to get the metal to look nice. It varies. It goes back and forth. Sometimes on one model, I'll do an area that looks really good for like wood texture, metal or skin, or I'll do really good on one model, and then I'll do the same thing on a different one, and it just doesn't turn out. Gems actually I've gotten much better at, that I'm happy with. And I'll show you the way how I do it. I'm gonna use my handy dandy little thumb here. Alright, so let's say this is the gem. It's kind of watery. So you want to paint the whole thing black. You want a nice solid coverage. Finger painting. I used my nail before to show how I painted eyes. And one of my followers and subscribers came in, and he's sitting. He said hi, and he's sitting in there for a while. And he's like, "Why do you have eyeballs on your thumb?" It's still kind of wet right there, so. So you want a nice black undercoat or base coat for it. It's not wanting to dry. So I sit here and blow on my finger. So we'll do a blue one. So the colors I'm going to use will be dark blue gray or dark gray blue, blue, sky blue, and then a bit of white. So with a gem, depending on where it's sitting, so let's say it's sitting on like the chest or something, the light's coming down from above. So let's say it's coming down from this area and reflecting off of the glass. Normally when you highlight the top part and you keep the lower part in shadow. But with the gem, it's reflective, so it would be the opposite. So you want to build up your highlights at the bottom. So you just paint a line at the bottom of the gem, or at least the first one. So it's the lower quarter. I'm gonna touch this up a bit. You want to keep the black rim around it. This might take a while to dry because it doesn't dry that fast on my nail. So then you take your next color, which will be blue. There she blows. And we're going to paint it even a smaller line further down. Keeping that previous layer there. And you can add white to lighten it up if you don't have multiple colors, but it's just easier if you have the different colors. So the sky blue, which is very bright blue. That's going to be even smaller, like almost like a very dot at the bottom or in the corner. Like so. So you have that transition of black to the dark blue, the mid blue, and then the very bright blue. And then you can take a white or an off-white, like an ivory. If you want to go even further and add that to your previous mixture of the sky blue. So we're just going to do a small little dot right in the middle there. Then your reflective light of your ivory or your white, and just a dot straight across from it, like so. And that's how you can do a gem. Usually the black will be darker, and if you want, you can put a gloss varnish over it, and that'll make it that'll help it shine. But that's a basic gem. If you want to be really fancy with that reflective point at the top. Make it look like a star. Sparkle. Like so, like a little cross. And you could also do a little small dot at the very bottom. Okay. You can do that for gems. The same technique for lenses, like eyeglasses. I don't have one close here. Let me double check here. Yep, here we go. So right here on his glasses, his goggles, I did the same thing. Yep, yeah, it's not hard. You just need to know where the light's coming. So from here, the light's coming down roughly at the top. But if the goggles were at a different, or the gem was at a different angle, you got to see where your light's coming. So if the light's coming in from here, that's where the white light, the white dot is where the light's hitting the reflectiveness, and it's casting the color down at the bottom. And this is the same way to do eyes. So if I were to add color into his eyes, I would just put blue or whatever color I wanted to at the bottom, corner of it. So you could say this is also like an eye too. It's the same idea. But let's so if the light was coming from this angle, you would have it opposite. You would have the color on this side and then that white dot there. Yep. Alright, back you go. Let's see what else I got here. No, that's it. Yeah, and it's not that hard to do. It's actually really easy. I've seen more in-depth areas where you do more colors in it. So, I haven't tried that yet. So if you have goggles or big eyes like the chibi anime models that have the really big eyes, you can do that. And then you can put a gloss varnish over it, and that'll help it give it a more of a sheen, of a shine, glistening. Alright, so we're going to add some of the bright warm gray into that previous mixture for the log here. And just add to it. And chat, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. I don't mind putting the painting down to explain something or show something. Definitely gonna need to do a wash. I'll do kind of like a combination wash over it to dirty them up. Do the same on the wood here. Yeah, skulls are really fun to paint. If you have a bunch of skulls and to get some variety, not that one. Where is it? if you like the washes, to give a variety on the skulls as you paint them up, do a thin wash of the Athonian Camel Shade. It's like a olive green. Yeah, I know you have a couple skulls. You bought that big box of them. So let's say you have a pile of skulls and you don't want them. You want some variety in it. Do a thin layer shade of the Camel Shade over one, and the next one over to it. You can do it the orange. It's kind of like a orangish brown color, or the Sephram Sepia, which is like a yellow brown tone, and even a flesh shade. And just do you can thin it. Don't thin it with water because it won't flow well, but you can thin it with their medium, the Lahmian medium. Just a little bit, like a light glaze, and just put it over after you've highlighted it, and that'll give you a nice variety of color on the skulls, and it'll show, you know, if they're more decayed and or, you know, still fresh type of skulls. So that's a nice trick too. I'll have to get a pile of skulls and show how to do that. Justin, let me have some of those skulls. He just got the big bots of skulls from Games Workshop. Oh yeah. We can put skulls everywhere on the base for Dagoon. Yep, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, besides the Adrat's Earthshade, the Nuln Oil, which is the black, and the Sephram Sepia, those are the three that I really like. I like the colored ones. The Jushi Violet, the purple. I use that on his face. I don't use the red one as much, the red wash. I like the red glaze for that. Another good one that I like is the Colia Green Shade. It's like a turquoise color, and that's really great to put over metal, like gold too, to make it look ancient and antique. It's a very cool look. The Flesh Shade's good, but I like to use that for adding on to metal to make it look aged, more so than putting it on for skin tone. The Athonian Camel Shade is one of my favorite ones. I like to use a mixture of that and the sepia, mixed together, you know, like a 50-50, and dab it on bases like rots and ground to give it different colorations. The blue glaze I like more so than the wash. The blue wash is darker, so it's like a darker blue, which is a good one. In fact, we'll do that on these. Show you a great technique that I like with the washes. Oh, thank you. I do my best. I'm still trying to get it just right. Sometimes I get really good ones, and some of them's like, it's okay, but I'd love to. And it's really, I just set it up on my table and take pictures of it. Sepia. Okay. So we'll take a break from working on his log. I need to put some washes on it. It's too bright. So I'll do that with my Sephram Sepia. But we're going to work on the metals here. Ew. What's up, Christy? Nasty. Just put that right on the palette. Alright, so the metal is base coat with a dark silver, and I did a Adret's Earthshade over it. So now we're going to add some Sephram Sepia. You want a nice thin layer across the whole area. And when you're working with these flat ends, flat pieces, make sure you're covering the whole thing and pushing the paint down towards the bottom and it doesn't pool or anything. Otherwise, when if it dries and it's too thick, you can get uneven surface and those dreaded coffee stain rings or water rings. So we're going to apply the sepia color over it. And as you can see, it's making it look like it's aged and antique and rusty. It's been out in this, hasn't been polished too well. Alright, so we'll let that dry fully before we go on and put our next layer, our next color, which will be the blue glaze. Guilliman blue. So we'll wait on that. So I'm gonna do some of my dirty washes. We're gonna kind of dirty up the rest of this guy. Where is it? There it is. So I got some sepia. Oh, checking the camera here. Some sepia on my palette, and we'll add some Athonian camo shade. It's like a camo green, olive green color. So about 50-50. I'll set it there. Kind of dab off the majority of it. And we're not going to apply a wash like I did on the metals. We're going to just dab it in areas. The fancy pants ogres. Very cool. So we'll just dab this on in random areas, kind of dirty it up a bit. And I'll use the same mixture on the skin too. But I want to highlight it up a little bit more. before I do that. We'll do it on the tree trunk. And I like to do this on the basing, whether it's regular ground or it's ruins. It's got rots and things like that. And the green makes it look like there's some moss in it. Multicolor frilly shirts. Cool. I bet they look quite nice. The frilly shirts. So we'll add some of this onto just splotches around the skin too. Make them look kind of dirty. And so I'll take a model and paint it up to make it look like it's neat and clean, and then I'll go back and do my weathering afterwards. Yeah, too nice for odors. So now he looks mud stained and dirty and everything. All right, sir. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna be finishing up in about a half hour myself, so. All right. Alright, so he's got some scars and everything, and bruises. Right here. Yeah, he's got a couple muscles. He's got some bruises and scratches and everything. So what we'll do is we'll paint over that with, I got some blue, red glaze still here on my palette. So we'll just paint over those scars. Here on his legs. So it looked like some villagers came up and started slashing at his legs here. Looks like he's got where an arrow hit him here. And then once that's dry, we'll go over it with purple. Down in the shadows and in between, just to give it some depth. Yeah, rabbits with big nasty teeth. Run away! Run away! this up a little bit here. Alright. And then once that's dry, I can go back over it with some skin tone to highlight it up a bit. It's still kind of wet. Oh, there's one on his chest there. Getting a little bit impatient. It's still wet. Now what I can do, I'll wait for that to dry. So we'll do some black with some dark umber, thin it a bit so it flows well. And we're going to paint a thin line between the armor, just kind of like separate all the areas, like the armor, between the armor and the skin, between the leather straps and the skin. So you just want to have a nice point and just drag it across. This is what's called black lining, but I like to do it with a dark brown instead of black, because doing black, it's just too stark. It almost looks like a cartoony look. And having that dark outline makes it pop out more. See, because I did all that bright highlights, but then I added the shades and it dulled it down, so it looks like rotted wood and everything. That actually turned out better than I expected. One of those happy accidents. No. Actually, I don't do sealants because I've always had issues where it dulls down and it covers up the highlights and it looks like there's no highlights. I'm not concerned with chipping or anything, because when I do the prep work before I start, I'll wash the model with warm soapy water and a toothbrush. I'll let that fully dry, and then I'll prime it and let that fully dry before I start painting. The primer, you need to let it dry fully for at least 12 hours. The initial primer, that gives, it's dry to the touch within a half hour to an hour, depending on the primer. But I always give it that extra time, because it could be dry to the touch on the surface, but underneath it's still kind of wet and it's not quite fully cured. And doing that and then painting over it, I don't have to worry about it rubbing off. Even on metal models, I hadn't had issues. Now, if I were to drop the metal model, of course it's going to chip. Even with a resin or a plastic. The plastic ones I'm not too worried about, but metal and a resin one, if I were to drop it onto the ground, there's always that chance that it will happen. Sometimes I do add a matte varnish, but I don't do the Krylon ones. I'll use Vallejo matte varnish, and either I'll paint over it with this, or I'll spray it through, thin it down a bit and spray it through my airbrush. He is looking really cool. I'm really liking it. I've painted him this is like the third time I painted him, and the other 2 times I just did not like the way he was looking, but I'm definitely liking how he looks now. I'll just paint up some of his scars here. So I'm just using the purple to add shadow and I have to fix that. I thought he had some other dashes. Yeah, got this one right here. I'm not sure if that's a star or what, but we'll paint it like one. Oops. Alright, he's got one over here too. And if I wanted to make it look more bruised, I can just add more purple and some blue around it. And that breaks up the skin, so it's not just all one color. Got some little warts or something sitting there. Alright, so the metal is dried, so let's go ahead and do the next layer with the Guilliman blue. And the combination of the blue to the yellow brown gives it a very unique look to the metal. It's a quick weathering look to it. And then once it's dry, I can go back in with a dark brown to help separate it and add darker shadows. And then I'll just take my silver and add, just add a little, little marks to make it look like there's some chipping or some edges that if the rust or weathering has come off. Or I can paint like a reddish orangish brown color, very thin in between it, which I will do to give it that rust look. Yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot of metal on him. Alright, so while I'm waiting for that to dry, we'll go ahead and paint his nails. I forgot to paint his nails. So we'll use a base coat of dark umber. So we'll make them like yellowish and dirty and all that fun stuff. So very similar to his teeth. We'll do it to his nails. And they're sculpted really nice, so you can see where the nail is. Some cases they're not always sculpted. It's a bit hard to reach because of how he's positioned here, but I can manipulate the model around. We got about 13 minutes. There, now he's got some beautiful brown nails. So we'll let that, that'll dry by the time I get back to it. We're waiting for the blue to dry on the metal there. We'll add some ivory into the light brown, light umber I should say. And once again, we're just going to do very thin lines to make it look like it's cracked nails. Cracked and chipped nails, just little thin lines. Drawing towards the end. Let's get his hand. Alright, so now we'll do straight ivory. Just for the very ends. Make the dashes different, not a straight line across, but just kind of jagged. To make them cracked and torn and reach in there, get that little bit right there. We'll get this part. And if I want, I can go over that with sepia to give it that yellow tint, which I'll do. Or that mixture with sepia and the camo shade. That way they look dirty and I'm also going to paint this in between his fingers just to give it some more depth to him. Between his toes too. Alright, so the metal is pretty much done. So let's add that kind of a dark black-brown color. Just paint the undersides of the little rivets here. Just make it a little bit, the shading a little bit darker. Not being precise because it makes it look like it's got dirt and grime in between the areas. Oh, quick and dirty. Alright. So now we're going to take our silver. I don't need the black. We're going to add a little bit of black into it because we want to darken it up for the first highlight. And once again, just doing little dashes and scratch marks. It doesn't have much of a highlight because it's not really polished metal. So just random markings, like slashes here and there. But the blue combined with the yellow gives it that worn, weathered look that it's been out in the elements too long. It hasn't been sharpened. It's only been gnashed up against rots or whatnot, beaten metal, not a polished metal. So I'll just add pure silver to some of the bigger areas right in the center, like right in here of the previous layer, just where the more light will catch it. So it's not a whole lot of this color. So the edges is where it's trying to be a little bit brighter, where rust and such has been chipped off. All right, I'll say he is done. He's good enough. I'm happy with it. That's good. All I need to do is the base, which I'll do in grays, and then add some foliage, some grasses, some shrubbery. But he's done. I'm happy with him. I don't think I want to add any more to it. Looks good enough. Put it on the table. Looking good. All right. And it's 8:30. Time to close up my palette. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me for Wednesday's edition of Paint, Hobby, Paint, and Chat. Thank you all who have come in and hung out and chatted with me, asked me questions, and all new followers and subscribers and hostings and everything. Thank you very much. I will be back next Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm thinking of maybe doing a Saturday mid-afternoon this weekend, so we'll see. If you want to keep up to date of when I do random streams, please click on that follow button. And also you can check out all my finished projects on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I also have a website. All the links are down below. So please go on over there, click on those links, and check them out over there. So once again, thank you very much. Have a great night and a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.